Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Allotment Dram. This is a series of short videos where we sit and talk about different whiskies in the surroundings of our North London allotment. You join me here today on what's been a lovely late January afternoon, bright blue sky, a bit of wintry sunshine and chilly as well, as it should be this time of the year. Not amazingly conducive for doing lots of work, but then there's not that many jobs, certainly compared to spring or summer, to do up here right now, but what it is conducive for is having some whiskey, because you need something to keep you warm, warm you up from the inside. So I think without further ado, it really is time for the Allotment Dram. What is it today, I hear you ask? Well, it's another new release. It came out at the back end of last year, sort of November 2021, and it is the Smokehead Twisted Stout. So this is part of a sort of ever-growing range of whiskies from the Smokehead brand, and this is really an Islay single malt, a brand that's kind of pushing boundaries, and of course when I say Islay single malt, there's no distillery called Smokehead on Islay. There's 9 distilleries there, shortly to be increased by another couple, but not one of them's called Smokehead. So what happens here is Ian MacLeod Distillers, who are the brand owners of Smokehead, they buy from an unnamed Islay distillery and then they bottle it themselves. And of course what they do with Smokehead particularly well is put it into different types of cask. So the Twisted Stout, the clue's in the name. This has been in the bourbon cask to begin with, but then finished in imperial stout casks. So these lovely beer casks. So very excited. I've not opened it. I've waited until we just got the bottle the other day, and I've waited until the Allotment Dram to sort of open it with you. So never tasted it before. Only really had 1 or 2 sort of beer cask whiskies. Have generally been all right actually, but yeah. So Smokehead, this is the latest, the Twisted Stout, and when I say they quite experimental with their cask types. There's a sherry cask one, that's called the Sherry Bomb. There's the Rum Rebel, which is a particular favourite of ours. I mean, that is a superb whiskey with Caribbean rum cask finish there. And there's also a cask strength one, which is called High Voltage, and then also there's just the regular Smokehead, which is just I think it's just bourbon cask actually. That's the regular one. So yeah, it's just growing and growing and growing as a range, and very, very, very good whiskies actually. So of course people like to guess which Islay whiskey which Islay distillery it might be from, of course, but I'll leave you to sort of muse about that. So I think without further ado, we should try this, and this is bottled at 43%, the Twisted Stout. And as you see, what they do, they have quite funky packaging, and when it was first launched, I think it was it 2016 it was first launched, Smokehead, maybe a touch before that, but they were certainly one of the first to try and create something sort of away from the very traditional sort of whiskey bottles, from the sort of dark, like the black glass, to the very sort of graphic, trying to attract different people, different crowds. I've got the tube here, you see, very nice. It's got all sorts of designs sort of on it. It also says not for everyone, which obviously we disagree with at Whiskey for Everyone, but yeah, let's have a taste, I think. So we'll crack this open. So each one has a sort of different colour as well. So this one's got this sort of purpley violet colour. So yeah, it sounded pretty good. So let's have a look. See, it's hard to tell when the bottle is. There we are. Immediately I'm getting the smokiness, well, you would expect from an Islay whiskey and something called Smokehead. You would expect it to be smoky, of course, but that's leaping out of literally as soon as I pulled the cork out. Let's have a smell. Yeah, it's quite where it's a sort of ashy, charcoaly sort of smoke, maybe with a bit of the sort of, you know, classic Islay sort of dried seaweed, sort of ozone-y iodine, a bit medicinal, you know, some people say. But yeah, underneath that there's a real sort of like golden syrup, treacle, quite a distinct maltiness, like a sort of biscuity, sort of malty quality. Very, very enticing actually. Let's have a taste. It's a smoke that gets you first again. A little bit hot and peppery, quite drying. That's what makes me think of the sort of ashy embers, you know, bonfire embers, you know, something like that. There's a little bit of vegetalness in there as well. Is vegetalness a word? I'm not sure. But there's certainly some vegetal notes in there. And this is, again, tending towards that sort of seaweed, dried seaweed, maybe slightly herbal even. Very, very interesting. And then you've got the sweetness. So you've got this golden syrup, then going to towards a bit sort of darker sweetness like caramel, maybe even like a little blob of treacle in there as well. But yeah, very nice. Let's have another taste. Now I'm getting a sort of, it's like a chocolatey hint of coffee. So that combination, you know, always makes me think of like a mocha. You know, you go to a nice cafe and you get like a mocha. So yeah, coffee, dark chocolate, this sort of biscuity, it's not quite cookie dough, it's a bit more like cooked biscuits, slightly overcooked biscuits, if that makes sense. But yeah, wonderful, all kind of wrapping around this sort of ashy, sort of burnt ember sort of smoke. And you know, casks, as I say, I've not had many beer casks, but you know, expressive casks like a beer cask do tend to work very well with quite heavy smokiness. So you know, here it's working well with the Imperial Stout cask. So someone's doing some sawing over there. Yeah, it's quite energetic, way too energetic for me on a cold day. But yeah, where was I? So yeah, this quite expressive cask. You know, other examples that work particularly well, you know, good sherry casks work very well with this sort of higher level of smokiness. Port casks as well. So peat and port is like a delicious delicious combination. As I said, the rum rebel for the Smokehead itself is very, very good. You know, one of our favourite whiskies in this sort of smoky, peaty genre. So yeah, absolutely delicious. So yeah, bit of a sort of discovery. You know, we've liked the other Smokeheads, but you know, not really sure how it was going to go with this beer, this stout cask. So yeah, from myself and the Smokehead, the Twisted Stout, we will bid you farewell. We will get on with one or two more jobs before we head off home to warm up, and in the meantime I'm going to let the Smokehead Twisted Stout warm me up. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.